Good evening, gentlemen. I'm Donna Negus and we're here tonight to talk about startups. I wondered if you might be good enough to introduce yourselves and give us a bit of information about what you do and your businesses, and then we can have a chat generally about how startups are doing in Cornwall.
My name is Simon Heap, and I'm the founder and director of a company called Rugged Interactive. We're based in Foy and we design and manufacture fitness equipment. We sell from everyone to schools, to Premiership football teams, to Formula One teams, and trampoline centres.
Wow.
So we have 11 people at the moment, so we're just moving out of the sort of micro business phase into the small business phase. We've been going about 7 years, but the last 3 years have been extraordinary, really exciting, and we're growing rapidly and having a really exciting time of it.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Exciting.
Very exciting. And what about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Nick Hawker, and I'm the Client Engagement Manager at Outset Cornwall, which is a business startup support agency which is funded by the European Union. And we're providing mentoring and support for new business startup in Cornwall, as well as various workshops and trainings, help with finance, startup loans, micro grants, this kind of thing to people that qualify. My background actually again is as an entrepreneur, and I started up in London, and I started a business pretty much like Simon from nothing. I had an idea for an exhibition and I hadn't done it before, and I started it pretty much with no knowledge and learned from nothing, but after I ran the first show in Copenhagen and I was living in Oxford, I decided to move down to Cornwall. So that subsequently the next sort of 10 years I ran it from down here and grew it from start really to be number one in the world, and then sold it to a multinational.
That's fantastic.
And what about yourself?
I was going to say, Donna, what are you?
Well, I'm an HR consultant and also an employment lawyer. So I started up my business Sekoya almost 5 years ago now, and in fact I started through Outset, but that's because I'd worked in a law firm where we had dealt with Outset Cornwall before. So I thought, actually I'm gonna do this, and actually it'd be really good to have some advice from somebody who's sort of been there and done it before. I mean, I came from a very entrepreneurial background. In fact, that my father had sort of multiple businesses and things, but he was no longer around, and I'd unfortunately my role had been made redundant within a local law firm, and I thought, I can do this on my own. I'm going to do it, and so I did, and I set up. And even up until a year ago, it was just me, and now I have 4 staff. So yeah, I absolutely love it, and I wouldn't do anything else. And definitely being in Cornwall is a great move, and we've got clients all over the country. So and it literally makes no difference.
Good evening. Okay, today we've got for a starter, we've got a goat's cheese and elderflower mousse. It's with some salt-baked baby beetroots, lightly pickled golden beetroot, which is the square piece, some orange puree that's on the plate with a little bit of acid to cut through the fattiness of the goat's cheese, and then there's some beetroot puree on there as well, just to bring it all together, and a little bit of a crostini on top.
Fantastic. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I very much enjoyed our starter.
Great.
I think the next thing that we were going to discuss is startups, and obviously, we've all been startups at one point, and what advice we would give startups in Cornwall, and anybody who wants to start a business in Cornwall. What do we believe the challenges are? What do we believe the benefits are? And how do we think we can help them with some advice?
Well, I think setting aside specifically Cornwall, but as a startup, this applies to you anywhere you're a startup. Probably the most important thing I think that you have to get to grips with is actually yourself and your mindset. The first business I started was a publishing company. It was quite a good idea. In fact, it could have survived as a business actually, and I employed eventually ended up with about 10 staff. but I went out of business quite spectacularly, and I lost quite a lot of money in that, actually. So that's my first experience, but that turned out to be a very good thing. Because when I'd lost everything, I started off blaming everyone. I started blaming the banks, my staff, everything I could think of. And after a while, it dawned on me that actually I was responsible for all this. I had taken the loans, I had employed the staff, and it was basically my fault. So that's actually quite a good thing to realise in life, that you're actually responsible for your destiny. So, I think that's for me. I don't know what you think, Simon, in terms of your experience.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? So, what do you need to be a startup? I think people are always looking for the big idea, and I don't think that's necessary. I think the really successful people, the really successful firms, have actually just been a little bit behind the good idea and have just made it work really, really well.
They've seen the pitfalls that everyone else has had
they've seen everyone
them.
else trip up and not been, I think there's that great term which I really like, is don't be on the bleeding edge, be on the leading edge. And I think that works really well. But the critical thing is it's not about the idea, it's about the execution. I think it's about doing it really, really well.
Yeah. For me, I was a startup in Cornwall, and I've remained in Cornwall all this time. And I think for me, it's about surrounding yourself with people whom you can trust. Being able to use any skills you've got to help others, because then they'll help you. It's a real community. And I think as long as you are ethical in what you do and you look for that support, when they say, people who work harder happen to be luckier, and I believe there is something in that, in that if you work hard, you don't expect everything to be given to you on a plate, that you actually go out looking for it. There is so much, like you mentioned, there is so much support out there. You just need to ask for it. And the moment you do ask for it, people are only too happy to offer that help and that support. And they almost sort of, you can see them feeling proud for you when you make it.
For main course, we've got the 2 fish dishes, which is baked Cornish mackerel en croûte, and that's served with crushed dill potatoes and a tomato compote. And then we've got the traditional steak frites. We use a cut of steak called bavette, which is a very, very tasty steak, but we always cook it nice and pink. And all the dishes are on our menu at the moment.
It's amazing. Thank you so much. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed your main course as much as I did. One of the things I next wanted to ask your opinion on is the hot topic of Brexit. How do we think Brexit's going to affect startups in Cornwall? Or startups generally, but in Cornwall specifically?
It's hard, isn't it? Because, the government don't know what's going to happen, so how are we supposed to know? I mean, from our point of view, we're doing more and more export, and obviously that's great because it means we look very cheap. The pound is very low against the dollar and the euro, so it means they can buy more stuff from us. So that's helping us as a business. If you're a startup, you don't usually start up thinking about export. You usually start up thinking about your local economy and your local market. So.
Yeah, and in terms of the other sort of economic situation in Cornwall, what's your sort of feeling on that?
I mean, I think, Cornwall is one of those really strange places that it has little bubbles of prosperity, whereas the majority of it can be, is very deprived, as we know.
But I think to some extent, that's probably helped us, because I think people have got a little bit more entrepreneurial spirit. Because they need to find another way of sourcing an income, and there aren't that many jobs. So I think it's driven people to actually think outside of the box. And I think because we've had quite a lot of European funding, it's one of the best places in the country to be. Well, apparently we've got the fastest broadband speeds. So in terms of, we are a county that is now, everyone who's got any kind of digital business wants to flock to Cornwall.
Apparently we're the second hottest destination for digital tech now in England, which is amazing, actually.
Do we think, looking at startups in Cornwall, what is the next big idea? We're talking about prosperity, we're talking about, Brexit. There's got to be, with every change, with every disruption, there's got to be some opportunities with that.
Absolutely. I mean, we are living in a very disruptive world, and part of the problems that we've got in Cornwall are global problems. We're not immune to that. We probably suffer them worse than some, I think. But I mean, it's a very confusing world for everybody out there, and ultimately, you have to embrace that. You know, we're a globally connected world. You know, but connected by the Internet of Things, and really, if you're not part of that, in the long term, you're gonna suffer. So, I mean, probably the next big things down here are going to be tech related, really. And so if you see the things that are growing very fast, it's like the tech people, and anything, digital, technology related, innovation, research, creativity related.
Nice rich dessert to finish you off for the evening. So we've got a chocolate Cremeux, which is it's basically a set chocolate custard. We've got some of our homemade honeycomb and a malted milk cream, which we've put in a chocolate tube. And that's basically it. So it's a very chocolatey dessert to finish off the meal.
Sounds perfect.
That's fantastic. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you very much for this evening, and I hope you enjoyed the pudding as much as I did, although I couldn't quite finish mine. I just wanted to really summarise kind of what we've gone through this evening, and if you had one tip for people who are looking to start up their own business, what would it be?
So, running a business, starting a business is like entering a relationship. It is with all of the pluses and minuses of that. It's going to be a rush, it's going to be very exciting. You're going to have huge highs and even lower lows. You know, it's not always going to be very positive. It is what you make it. I think, you know, it's all about not ever thinking you're going to reach a destination, not ever sort of setting an objective and saying, well, I'll be satisfied when I get to that point. I think you just have to, you know, go on the journey. You know, it's about being an entrepreneur, starting up a company with all those inherent risks, you know, where it can all go wrong, where you can lose everything, where, you know, people can look at you as a failure and you can feel a failure. Actually, you've got to embrace that and think, okay, I want to enjoy every moment, you know, and if I'm lucky enough to be successful, then, you know, enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah, and for me, I would say that anything's possible if you really believe it is. You don't have to have a lot of money to start. You don't have to have a lot of experience. You don't have to be the brightest person in the world. You don't have to be the best looking person, have the best personality. Those things actually become pretty irrelevant if you actually just believe in yourself and you can do something. You know, for instance, when I started, I had no money. I'd lost a business and I literally had 50 quid to my name. And so because I had a dream, a vision, I wanted to do something, I drove taxis at night from 6 to 1 and I did my job during the day. I didn't earn anything from my job for about 3 months. And after that, you know, things took off. But if you wanted enough and you're prepared to do what is required, you will get there. I totally agree with the journey, and it's an up and down, and really it's all about being resourceful.
Well, I agree with both of you, and my mantra has always been love what you do or do something else. That's what I say to all the employees that I deal with, or the employers that I deal with. Like you've both said, you know, there are highs and lows, you know, and that can be from one day to the next, never mind 1 week or 1 month to the next. And I think you need to enjoy the highs, and let yourself enjoy the highs, so that when you have those lows, you can think, you know, actually I know there'll be light at the end of the tunnel, and just don't give up when there's that low.
People think that entrepreneurs are some, like Richard Branson, multimillionaire, who lives this fantastic lifestyle. No, a lot of them are just people that had a decent idea, and you've met, you know, through the Outset journey, people that started from nothing and now are doing, you know, really well.
Incredibly.
But you see what they were like when they started. They just had an idea and they're just regular people, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should toast to everything.
Toast to that. Yeah, that's it.
Cheers.
Well done.
Cheers. Cheers.
And I think I would also like to say, and I think you guys would agree with me, to say thank you very much to Andrew, who's the head chef here, and his fantastic team. I think we'd all agree that the meal was just amazing.
Really
and the Penventon Hotel here in Redruth have been superb hosts for us this evening. So thank you, Penventon, and thank you, Andrew and his team.